When I first started working in research, I did so because I wanted to cross the boundaries of knowledge. I wanted to contribute to a better world, build on the shoulders of giants, build on the work of other researchers that I so much admired. But I soon learned that it wasn't going to be so easy. I soon learned that most science is closed. When I did my PhD in statistics, I was able to publish my first research article. And when the journal asked whether we wanted to publish it open access, I was like, sure, yeah, I want everybody to be able to read my research. When I talked about it with my research supervisor, he was just like, you're going to be an expensive PhD candidate. I was confused. Why? I learned that publishing open access in that journal was actually not the norm, but in order to do so, we needed to pay thousands of euros. I didn't feel like that was right, but was I maybe naive? I dove into it and learned that journals are actually among the most profitable companies in the planet. Elsevier, for example, has higher profit margins than Google or Microsoft. They get that because they make researchers do most of the work for free, and then they charge for the articles. Who pays for that? All of us, the taxpayers. Because the taxpayers not only pay most of the salaries of researchers, they also give money to the universities so they can pay for the article processing charges and the journal subscriptions. That felt crazy to me. Doesn't it feel crazy to you? But maybe I was just naive. None of my ancestors had gone to university, let alone worked in research, so I didn't know very much about the academic system. Maybe I was naive. So I went to learn. I learned both about the academic system as well as what good research actually means. I learned about data management, good coding practices. I learned how to manage and organize my research project. But I also learned about the pressures, opinions, and feelings that researchers have. The more I learned, the more my opinion grew stronger. That opinion didn't change so much from my original naive opinion. I still thought that science should be as open as possible, in particular if it's paid by the taxpayer. I still thought that we should be able to build upon each other's work. But I also learned that researchers are under a lot of pressure. Have you ever heard of the term publish or perish? Publish or perish suggests that as a researcher, in order to be successful, you must publish as many papers as possible. It does not, however, suggest that your research needs to be of high quality. To me, that feels like we're putting quantity over quality. And that, to me, is the tragic reality of the academic system today. Now, putting the paper so much in the focus also means that we're taking focus away from the entire research process, the data, the code, and that leads to further problems. For years, in many fields, we've been discussing what's called a reproducibility crisis, because in fact, a lot of research is not reproducible, and that's a problem. Entire fields like social psychology or early phase medicine have been questioning their foundations. I once did a study with a class of students where we tried to reproduce 11 research papers. We actually only picked articles where the authors had already done a pretty good job. We only picked papers where the articles were open access and the data was available. What was not available, however, was the research process. In my field, that means having access to the code. So that meant that we together spent an entire semester trying to reverse engineer what the researchers had actually done. And honestly, for most of them, we failed and needed to ask the researchers themselves. That, to me, is not high-quality research. That is not what building on the shoulders of giants should feel like. I got more and more frustrated by the lack of reproducibility in science, and actually more and more excited over time by the idea of open science as a way out. Now, at the same time, I was continuing my own research, and from the outside, it probably looked like I was having a pretty good career. I turned group leader before I turned 30. I was doing exciting research at the intersection of data science and medicine. I was considered an expert in open and reproducible research, got invited to give talks and workshops, even got prizes for my work. I did science communication, also was asked to sit on boards and expert panels. So from the outside, it all looked great. From where I stood, it looked different. From where I stood, I felt the pressure myself. I started feeling the pressure of publish or perish. And with my activities in open science, doing science communication and working on boards and panels, I felt like I was choosing perish. Now, I've been debating whether I should share my struggles here with you on stage, but I think it's important for you to hear this, because I'm not the only one who struggles. Over time, I started questioning my career in research. I started having panic attacks. And at some point, in order to save my mental health, I needed to quit my job. I couldn't change the system from within any longer. I couldn't adhere to the same rules that I was trying to change. So I quit. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. Now I could really think about what I wanted. I really wanted to change the academic system. I really wanted to improve the quality of research through open science. Who here in the room has never ever worked in research or academia? So you might wonder, what does she mean when she says open science? And I want to tell you, open science is about transparency of the research process. It's about collaboration instead of competition. And it's also a lot about the goals that open science itself has. Goal number 1, equity. Giving equal access to anyone, regardless of the institution they work at or the financial background that they have. Goal number 2, and that's the one that's most important to me, improving the quality of research. Through a transparent process where we can build upon each other's work, we improve the quality of research. Let me give you an example. We all talk a lot about ChatGPT these days. Large language models like ChatGPT are built using data and algorithms. That's a lot of what we do in my field of research as well. We use data and algorithms to try to understand the world a little bit better. But can you really trust ChatGPT? No. No, because it's not open. No, because you don't know what data was used to train it, and you don't exactly know which algorithm they used to build it. Well, that's totally fine. Don't get me wrong, if you want to create a new recipe using ChatGPT. That is, however, not fine if your doctor asks ChatGPT how they should treat you. Right? But a lot of times, to me, it feels like we're doing something like that in research. My own research has been to develop new machine learning methods to analyze clinical trials. Right? So these In essence, I developed new algorithms to understand better how we should treat patients. Now imagine I would keep the code to myself and just say, trust me, this is a good algorithm. A researcher comes and analyzes a clinical trial using the algorithm and makes decisions based on that. That would mean they would make decisions based on an algorithm that they don't understand that could probably impact life or death of someone else. Doesn't that seem crazy to you? It sure feels crazy to me. The open science utopia I have in my head is the opposite of that. Let me give you an example, day in a life of a researcher in this utopia, okay? Let's call her Kim. Kim comes to the laboratory in the morning and meets her research buddy, Tom. Tom tells her about the newest results of their experiment. Oh well, it looks like they've been moving in the wrong direction. It doesn't matter. They did a good process, they write everything up, add the final notes to their nicely organized files, and they publish what they did. It's not a major breakthrough. In today's world, they might not be able to publish this at all. In the open science utopia, what matters is the good research process, not the outcome. So nobody questions whether Kim will have a good career in research. She's doing good work. This is not the end of Kim's day. She even leaves work at a reasonable time and has hobbies. So I truly believe that researchers want to move towards this open science utopia. I truly believe that they want to do good research. So when I had the chance, I decided to help them do better. I decided to go into training. When doing training, I thought we need to see researchers as the whole person that they are. Researchers often tell me that they don't publish the code because they fear that others will judge them. I understand that very well. I've been coding since 2009, and I still feel ashamed of the code that I publish. Other researchers tell me that, yeah, they just don't have the time to practice open science. And I get it. Researchers are busy people. And if they don't get anything out of doing it, why should they? Yet, again, others tell me they want to do open science, but they just don't know how. Doing it is harder than it sounds. Figuring out licensees, privacy considerations, or open science platform is hard. So we went ahead, and I decided we need to take that all into account. Provide a safe space for researchers to learn. Create a way for them that they can implement open and reproducible research practices that actually saves them time in the long run. And give them simple tips of how they can get started without having to become open science experts themselves. With that approach, I've been able to work with researchers from all over the world. And yes, we are a we now, we're able to build a community of like-minded people. People who want to contribute to improving the quality of research through training. This wonderful community is called the Digital Research Academy. And together, we move towards this open science utopia, one training at a time. I feel grateful for being part of this journey towards open science. But I feel more than that. I feel like it's also a journey towards a better world. Because if we can truly build upon each other's work, then we can figure out the really hard problems, the energy crisis, climate crisis. Maybe we can even save our future planet, right? So if you think that way too, if you want to contribute as well, talk to the researchers that you meet and ask them how they feel about open science, how they publish their research, whether they publish more than just the paper. If you're a researcher yourself, become a little bit more naive again. Think about why you got into research in the first place. Was it for the cause or for the career? I'm sure it was for the cause. So stick to that and contribute to expanding the boundaries of knowledge openly.